another episode of Ignite Your Power, the Kathy Mou Podcast. I am so excited and honored to have a guest today, Dani James. She is an incredible guest whose story is a true testament to resilience, healing, and transformation. So, Dani James is an international best-selling author, a writing coach who is helping me write my book right now, currently, which is so exciting. She is also an influencer, a travel blogger, and a speaker. Her book, The Wandering Heart, has touched lives around the world, and she now helps others turn their personal stories into powerful books. But what makes her journey even more inspiring is the reason behind it. Dani faced an unimaginable challenge when she was hit with a brain injury in a car accident years ago, which we will dive deeper into this story. And instead of letting it define her, she used her experiences as a catalyst for change, healing, and storytelling. So, in this episode, we'll dive into her journey of overcoming adversity, how travel played a role in her healing, and why sharing her story can be one of the most powerful things you can ever do. So, if you've ever thought about writing your own book, Dani is sharing her best tips on how to get started today. So, hi, Dani. If you want to say hi to everybody.
Hello, everyone, and thanks for having me, Kathy.
Of course, I'm so honored to have you, and I'm so excited to pick your brain and your knowledge, and even just listen to your powerful, amazing story and how that really catapulted you into your journey of being a writing coach and helping other people. So, you turned this incredible, difficult experience, of your car accident into a book, The Wandering Heart, which is now an international bestseller. How amazing is that? So, what inspired you to share your story with the world?
Well, I think I'm like many other people out there where I didn't think it was a big deal and just low plated it. And then I've been on so many podcasts and time again, the podcast people were telling me like, you need to write a book. Like your story is so inspiring. And it just didn't click until the 20th or so time that I heard it. And I was like, okay, maybe I should do that. And then as I was writing it, I revisited my past, which was difficult because sometimes when you're writing, especially when it's personal experiences, you can have to go through those trauma feelings again. And so I started feeling the pain in my head. But what I did was I reached out to one of my old mentors, and she told me, you have to remember this is in the past. And you have to remember that your present is not that anymore. Remember and become aware of it. And once I did that, I was able to start writing again without that fear of the pain coming back. And it didn't come again. So I was very thankful for that. But yes, it's definitely a journey writing and the whole experience you get from realizing that your story does truly matter.
Yeah, I really truly believe that. And this is why I love having guests come on and share their stories and their experiences because storytelling is the best way to learn or to even just gain some knowledge. And that's how I learned myself. I went through so many adversities in my life and I was like, how do I overcome it? If that person did it, I can do it. And people's stories are inspiring and that's how life works too. Right, stories from our ancestors and whatnot, and then they get passed down, and then you get storytelling, etc. So it's so, so important. So can you tell us a little bit about your journey and what was that big shift that happened to you? Like your story with your car accident. Like how did that really play a role in changing your life?
So I had that that moment that definitely changed everything. And then that was when I was looking up at the ceiling in the hospital bed after getting out of my coma. I'd been out for like 3 days and I was just like, now what? And then that's when I heard it, my inner voice say, this is but a moment. And when I heard that, I realized that I get to choose what happens next. I could stay in this bed and not walk again, or I could get up and start pushing towards becoming the better version of myself that I already knew was a possibility. That I already knew that I wasn't going to be where I was at that moment, that I saw myself over there and I was like, I'm getting over there. And so that's how I was able to get myself moving towards healing.
Wow, that's incredible. That mindset is so powerful. Like, you just had a brain injury, and then you coming out of a coma, and you're just like, I don't want to be like this, and I know I don't have to be like this. Right? So when you woke up from your coma, though, did the doctors tell you you would be a certain way, you would have to be bedridden, or like anything so scary that you're like, oh my God, it's gonna limit my life? And then you having that mindset, like, no, I'm not. I'm not gonna let these things limit my life. Did they tell you certain things, or were you scared, or anything like that?
So what happened was it was my mom that was there telling me what had happened, and I was still all foggy. I was filled with frustration, anger, and I didn't really understand it. And it was because I was missing a piece of myself. I was pretty much missing like my ego and some other parts of me. So I was surprised that I was able to remember a few bits and pieces here and there. But yeah, it's one of those feelings that you get like since I had that inner voice say that to me, it it just became an a knowing to me. So it was like you can't debate this because it's the truth and I cannot deny what I felt within me, no matter what the outer people had said or anything like doctors or anyone. And I knew in my heart that I couldn't stay in that hospital for very long. Like I kept wanting to get out because I knew that the doctor and nurses just saw me as a piece of paper. They just saw me as this name, and then, oh, whatever they had written on there is how I would be healing, if at all, and those things. And I also knew about myself that I didn't want any medication. And people, when I say that, they're like, you're crazy. And it's like, but I knew my body and myself that if I took medication, painkillers, I would be hurting myself for the future because I would push myself even more because I didn't feel it, which would in the end hurt me for the long run. So yeah, I'm still a bit surprised that I did that, but here I am.
That's amazing. I love how like you're so connected to your body and yourself that you knew knowingly that the pain meds was not going to work for you and that it's not good for you in the long run. And you're listening to your body, and then you're able to heal yourself and be this amazing author and person that you are, standing here all healthy. Like, that's incredible. How long was your healing journey, though? So I know you said you were in a coma for 3 days, but then how long were you in the hospital, and then like how long did it really actually take for you to become like more healthy, to be able to stand and do the things on your own?
Yeah, so I'll give you a little bit more context is the accident happened from a 7 car pileup. It was black ice, visibility was less than a mile, and all I remember is going, oh crap. And so my small truck was the last one there. I ended up hitting it, did a 360, the back of my truck was hit. The whole top was taken off like a tin can top, and I ended up getting a huge gash here. If I was any taller, I would have been decapitated. I found out that I had fractured my neck, so I was very close to becoming paralyzed. My dog was also in this accident, and he went and hid at some point when the sheriff had come, and I had to be helicoptered to Salt Lake City, Utah from Wyoming where the accident happened. So then I was put in ICU for 10 days. Then I came to 3 days because they induced me in a coma in the helicopter. So that's way better than me actually having the coma like from the impact. So
Mhm.
that was very thankful. And yeah, so after those 10 days, I was able to leave the hospital with my parents and I went back to South Dakota where I'm originally from. And then I healed there for like a month or two. So I think that gives you a little bit of rough on that. And then overall, it took me about 7 years to heal. And me, I'm stubborn and I can't stay in one place. So after that month or so, when I was in South Dakota, I was like, I need to go back to work because I was working in California as a weed farmer. So my friend came and picked me up and she drove me back there, my dog and myself. And I found out that I could only do an hour of work a day, and then my whole body would be in such pain that I was very fortunate that I had a good friend that was there with me, and he would force me to go back to bed and stay in bed. And then he would find me in a weed plant working away, and he'd be like, "Oh, no, no, go back." And so I'd go back there, and now we're married. So, yeah,
So
I
beautiful.
think that summarizes it for you.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that because honestly, I just want people to know like how fast it is for you to do what you wanted to do. If you really put that mindset and like you said, you're stubborn, you wanted to do the things that you wanted to do already. And I know there are people that would get stuck in that victim mentality of like this happened to me and they can't wrap their mind around it and they're just stuck, right? A lot of us do get stuck in certain things that happen to us. So I love that mindset of you just really wanting to heal and come out of that. And look at all you've done. Like, what? And then now you're living in Sweden, right?
Yes.
That's incredible. Like, you are like roaming the world, living life, which is so beautiful. What brought you to Sweden?
My hubby, he's a Swede. So we decided to move here.
That's incredible. That's awesome. Yeah, because I'm from California. I was like, wait, what? You came to work in California? I love California. But that's awesome. And then now you're an author and you coach people on writing books. And how is that for you? It's like, completely different than working out in like the fields of like weed work.
Yeah, I'm actually surprised how much I love it. Like, I was a little hesitant because it was a friend of mine, Junis, that mentioned you should probably start a school community, and I was like, like what would I have it about? And he's like, well, you wrote an international bestseller. You could help people write books. I'm like, I've never done that before. And then like the first one-on-one call I had, I was like, oh my gosh, this is what I'm meant to do. I'm meant to do this. And it just felt right in every single way. And like I've been learning as I'm doing a lot of it, but it's like I'm helping people with what I've already done. And I'm even looking into more things to help people if they have different perspectives or different ways of doing things as well, because I want to help as much as possible. So I
Yeah.
really,
I see it. I joined your school community, which is so helpful. And I've been telling my listeners I've been wanting to write a book, but I actually have not done it. I'm just so busy all the time. But you've been motivating me to really want to like put my ideas, my concept, my perception about the BS life onto paper. Like it's go time. And so, yeah, I love your school community. So if anybody has been wanting to write a book, Dani is so amazing. And like they should join your community, your school community, by the way, as well. But we'll put all of that in the show notes below for people to know and learn about. But, what tips though would you give people if they even wanted to start writing a book? I guess yes, you have a story, but then people struggle. I know me. Like, my biggest struggle is, I guess, maybe imposter syndrome or like feeling like I'm a phony and like, who's gonna read my book? I think that's the biggest thing. And then trying to compare myself with like other people, like, oh my gosh, I want to be a number one best-selling author, but I can't do it because like ABCD. I don't know, making crazy reasons of like why not to do it? But instead, I should shift that mindset to, no, you should. And I know you talked about this, which this is why I want you to talk about it here, is all about that mindset. And I know you have such a powerful, amazing mindset because we've seen it through and through with like your healing and then now being a number one best-selling author. So what are some tips that you can give the listeners on how to just start?
yeah. And I love Kathy, like our one-on-one that we did because you pointed out so many of those blocks that a lot of people have when it comes to writing. You're like, "Oh, but I'm not a good writer," or "What would I say?" or "I don't have the time for it," or "Oh, I cannot be like this other people here and there," like you had just mentioned. And it's like when that stuff comes, you have to realize that everyone's story matters, especially yours. And like I told you, you can just dedicate like 5 minutes a day towards creating your book. It doesn't mean the writing, it can just be visualizing or thinking about it or maybe doing research, whatever it may be. And then over time, that's when you start progressing and adding more time to it. And if you want to have it on a schedule, like you want to get it done in 6 months, then that means you need to be a little bit more faster with yourself with it. But anybody can do this. Anybody can write a book. Everyone's story truly does matter, and it needs to be shared because there's a world with 8 billion people in it. You can't tell me there's not at least one other person out there that gives a damn with what you have to say. And it's like there's so many people out there that maybe they went through something similar to you and they are in tears from reading your story because they're like, that's my life. You just wrote it, and I'm so thankful that you had the courage to put it on paper. And that alone, that just brings me so much joy to think of the people that you can touch in that way because there are so many people that they kind of feel like they've lost their voice. They don't have the courage, or they just feel like they're going to get kicked down when they get their story out. But if you get yourself out there and you get brave and get your story out there, you could help those people. And so, like, that's a huge thing that I would say is just when you have those negative self-doubt, just think of those people that you can help with your story. And then think of your why, because everyone has a why that they want to write a book. For like, for instance, for me, it was I wanted to inspire people and give them hope and help them realize that, hey, look what I could overcome. I bet whatever you're going through, you can overcome too. And it's not a comparison game. It's never that because, some people go through first hard pain points that we can have as well. So it can be like the same level. So the comparison game doesn't help anybody. So you just have to remember everyone's individuals and everyone's story is amazing.
Yeah, that's true. Thank you for that beautiful tip. That is so good. I feel like that is the number one reason why we should just do it, right? It is the whole reason of writing a book, to share your story, to share your knowledge, and everybody's perception is different. And the crazy part is, I thought about this before, is like there's 8 billion people, like you said, and everybody's perception about life is so different. There is not going to be one person with the same exact thought processes or the same exact stories or whatever life brings them, right? So I thought about this too because I'm a twin. So everybody's like, you and your twin are the same. You guys live the same life. No, even though we're twins, we're very similar. We grew up in the same house, but my whole life experiences is completely different than hers. Like growing up, just even little things like my parents would say, oh, she's a smarter, prettier twin. Like just saying weird little things like that really affects my reality or like my confidence or whatever it is. So she grew up being more confident than me, so now I see it in how she carries herself and how she is such a beautiful, amazing attorney, but that fits for her because she was able to have that. But I'm just saying everybody's reality is different. And my parents, I don't blame them for anything they say. It's just they were doing their best. I mean, that's it. I know I'm beautiful and gorgeous myself, but it's just different growing up with the reality. But that just in that mindset, though, is like how everybody's reality is completely different. So there can be 8 billion books, and yet everybody's book is going to be so different and in their own way, which is beautiful. So, yes, sharing stories is one of the best ways. So, I know in your book you kind of talk a little bit about your story, but what else is in that book that you really are is really proud about? Like I know writing a book and the whole process is, yes, it's about writing your story, but there's more to that, right? There's just like I guess the way you kind of want to carry your story out, right? Or like the way you want your chapters to be, or like the way you want that timeline of however you want to tell your story in a book. And so for you, how was that process like?
Yeah, so I think I was a little hesitant on how to do it for a little bit there, but then I figured out, well, I'm going to do it this way because that's how it feels like it would work best for me. And I have it, every other chapter is present and past. And the
Oh,
reason that I do that is like I want people to be there when the accident happens. So the first chapter is present, and then they get to experience the accident with me. And then it's the next chapter goes to the past. So I want them to see me before the accident. I don't want them just to get the feeling of me being this broken thing. I wanted them to get a bigger picture of who I am and who I was. So they get to see me in the weed farming days, like before the accident, like I was a party girl doing all these crazy things. And then this accident happens, and it's like, whoa, lights out, figure out everything. But yeah, that's why I did that. And then a huge part that really sticks out to me is when I did a lot of self-discovery as I was writing my book that I didn't realize that I had actually was doing on my healing journey. And it was like, I I was going within myself to heal. And I did this subconsciously when I was around people. So it's like they just saw me like zoning out. Like they'd be like, oh, she's really messed up from her accident and all this stuff. But it's like I wasn't getting the social norms. Like that wasn't in my brain anymore. So it's like I didn't think that was weird. I was like, this is what I need to do right now. And so I would just zone out and go within myself and work on healing. And so like that's something when I wrote it, I was like, oh my gosh, that's right. That's what I was doing.
that is so incredible that you were able to discover more about yourself in your healing journey. But that's so crazy. So that part of you changed where, you're not as social and like you were able to just tap into more of yourself. And so when you were in those zones though, like you were just tapping into like just reflecting on what you were doing or like just reflecting on like being more present. Like how was that moment for you?
Like when I was doing it, when I was healing, you mean?
Yeah, when you were healing and you like zoned out and then instead of like, focusing on other people and their intentions, you were just focusing on yourself, right?
hmm Yeah, so it
So,
was like doing the inner work. So it's like it was kind of like meditation, but I'm doing it surrounded by people with my eyes open and all those kinds of things. So it's like I literally went with myself. And it was like just pitch black, and that scares a lot of people, but I felt at peace and I felt that was my safe place. And there are some people that say like that's the God zone, like that's where all of the magic happens. And so like I learned a lot of the stuff I'm talking about now after the fact of my accident and everything, and it's only been these past couple years that I've actually been meditating and looking more on the spiritual side. And so much now has been clicking for me and being like, oh, that's why I did that. That's why I did this and that. Because I was kind of running more on my subconscious when I was healing, and the ego wasn't fully there, which that must have been a good thing. So I was able to heal myself better instead of having the nagging ego say, like, oh, you can't do this. Oh, you can't do that. Or, oh, this doesn't make sense. So I didn't have that as much. But on the other side, it also made it difficult for me to feel fully like myself. And that's why I was so frustrated for the first 2 years. And then that's when I started feeling like myself again.
oh, but that's so amazing that you're able to tap into that God area of like, really meditating and just being within yourself and minusing the ego. The ego is great in order to keep us safe, but it's so loud for a lot of us. I know it's loud for me all the time. I'm like, shh, be quiet. So that's so awesome that you were able to notice that and then to zone out to be able to tap into you. Wow. So how is finding spirituality for you? I love it. Like, I know most of people go through like a awakening or a spiritual journey after something big happens, but not for like, not for everybody, but most of us. So like mine happened during my infertility days of like, you know, having a miscarriage and whatnot. So I tapped into my spirituality more, meaning like there has to be more to life than just whatever's happening now. Like there has to be an afterlife, there has to be more. And so I started tapping into that, which makes so much sense. Like what you said, you're like, oh, I tapped into my spirituality, and then things started clicking for you, and things started to make sense for you. So how has that spiritual journey been for you?
It's definitely been a roller coaster. I've definitely been at those moments where I was like, oh my gosh, like everything was just aligning perfectly and it just felt like things were being handed to me. And then I felt the lowest of the lowest because, you're like swirling around up and down and all these things because we have so many layers within us that need to be healed. And it could be just more than just from this life. It can be from several lifetimes. It could be from ancestors. It can be from all kinds of things. So it's like there's so much that plays a role. And then I also am really good friends with an astrologist now. And so like I'm learning so much about that. And that's like a whole nother window of the spirituality. And then human design. And then there's like this over here and this and this. And I'm just like, this is so crazy. It's like each one of those is another door to open and find out like a whole new world. And it's like you can see them starting to connect with other things and they can all connect together, but it blows my mind. I didn't realize this was so possible.
Yes, the spiritual world is a lot. It can be overwhelming. But I just love seeing the synchronicities, like what you said, when you started seeing things come together and you're just like, oh, it's just happening in the right divine timing and way. And that's where the magic happens. And, that's part of the spiritual journey is to be like aware of it, I guess. Right? Being aware of like what's truly happening and not letting your reality be so small or your view or perception in life be so small. And so, yeah, it's pretty incredible. I mean, I'm not this crazy spiritual person, but I do believe in something higher, greater, and I do love talking about this topic because I don't know, for some reason it lights me up and it's always been a positive thing for me when I talk about my spiritual journey, you know. And so I'm glad that your spiritual journey has been awesome too. So, I mean, yeah, there is a whirlwind of like, a lot of ups, but it can be a lot of downs too. But again, it's that mindset that you create for yourself. So, have you always had such a strong mindset, or did you have to work towards like having that strong mindset for yourself? Because I know you said that yes, you're stubborn in a way, but yet being stubborn is also like having a strong mindset because you're going to say what you're going to do, right? And get that done. So have you always grown up having that mindset or you had to learn to become and be that, have that strong mindset that you do have?
So I think it was probably at a young age I had to learn that pretty quickly. I mean, I didn't have the perfect kind of family. I have an actual pretty dysfunctional family. And like when I was 14, I ended up having to pick up my drunk dad from the bars a lot because in South Dakota, you can start driving at 14 years old. So I was pretty much the one that was picking him up from the bars a lot. And then like even before that, there were some family members that were not the friendliest. They were maybe a little physical when they shouldn't have been. So then I would be the one stepping up for like the younger kids, or it's the same for like my friends. I would be the one standing up and being the one that would be taking the brunt of something instead of them. And I think that's probably how I developed that kind of mindset was because, hey, I'm not backing down because they don't deserve to be treated that way.
Oh, wow. Oh, thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing your past. I know it could be hard, but our childhood does kind of, create the person that we are today. And so it made you a strong-willed person, which is great and amazing, but not great when you're going through it at a young age, right? That's so crazy. That's wild. Um, so then you brought that into your adulthood, but then now you see all the benefits, right? Having that strong mindset. I'm the same way. My parents owned a fast food restaurant, and as a kid, I was like, why do I have to learn all these things? Why do I have to learn all these skills and do all these things at a young age? But then now I'm like so thankful for it because I was like, dude, I have so much skills and I do it so fast that I'm like, how do people not know how to do it? But it's because they're not, brought up in that same childhood that I did. Instead, they were playing and like being kids while I was like already learning adult skills that, at a young age. So, but at the time I was like, I hate it so much. But now I'm like, okay, I'm thankful. I'm thankful, right? So reflecting back into that. And that's why it's part of our journey, like our story, right? Like all our stories is so magical and amazing. Um, and the
Yeah.
last but not least, I would love to talk about you being a mama. You have a 3-year-old. That's amazing. After going through all that you've done, now you're a mom to a 3-year-old. How is being a mom and like how has that been for you after going through what you've been through and then now giving birth and like, having a child and being able to, raise a little human being?
Yeah, so like my accident was, I think it's going to be 11 years ago. So
Mhm.
I had that big gap. So that was helpful. I don't think I would have been able to have him after the 7 year mark because I don't think, well, I guess it kind of was the 7 year mark when I did, well, before the 7 year mark, I don't think I could have had him because I didn't feel comfortable enough in my mind, in my head, because I had pains here and there. Um, but then after the 7 years, that's when I think my husband and I finally decided, oh, I think it's okay to do it. And it still kind of amazes me when people ask me like, whoa, how were you able to do that when you had that? And it just, to me, it doesn't seem like it would have been such a big deal, I guess. But it's because I already did all this healing and I knew where I was at. I think that's probably why I'm like, I know that it's going to be okay.
Yeah. That's amazing. Oh, I love that. And, caring for a child and obviously me going through infertility, I know even just creating a little human being is such a hard, beautiful thing though. So that's amazing that you're able to heal and then become like, the selling author, a mom, a coach, like helping others. Like how inspirational. Geez, you are such an inspiration to this world. And this is why, you going through this hardship and now sharing your story in your book and all, everywhere and being here shows like you can do anything. Your story literally tells everybody, like, dude, you almost died and was able to overcome that and be this normal person, even though it's not normal, but like you're able to live more of a normal life that a lot of people might have not overcame that and be able to do that, like to be able to do what you're doing. And it's funny that, yes, a normal life looks so simple, but you never know everybody's story. Like just looking at you, I would have never known you went through so much, and all the hardships that you've been through just to live like a quote unquote normal life. But everybody's life is hard in a way.
Yeah, and I think that's something that I wish more people thought about because like when you react towards someone like in a mean negative way, you have no idea what's going on inside their head. You have no idea what they've gone through in their life either. So it's just like we have to realize that we need to put ourselves in other people's shoes once in a while and start reflecting or at least responding. And when I say that, it means think about it before you just attack or react. Because, like, reactions, that's like what animals do. Their instinct is to react as soon as possible. But we have our thinking minds, so we get to decide if we are going to do that or not. And that's the same with emotions when they come up too. Because I know a lot of us, like if we get angry or defensive mode happens, it's like reaction right away. But if we start learning that that doesn't have to be the way, then we're able to have calm talks with the person that we were angry at, or be able to actually find a resolution or a solution for the problems.
Yeah. And I'm laughing because you're explaining the person that I am trying to like work through. So I'm a very emotional person. And so I let my emotions run for the most part. I'm trying to, I notice, I'm aware of it, and I'm like, okay, I need to change this. I've been better at it. But it's funny because sometimes you do let that your emotions run and you have to learn to practice it, like tame it in a sense. Like, it's kind of like this fire in me that I was like, I just want to release it. But then sometimes I need to learn to like hey, let's just calm down. It's not that big of a deal. And then like, my tip is to like either take a few breaths, kind of breathe and calm down before like, yes, you'll react, but then calm down and then breathe. That's been helpful. And then, or I just let it out, like my emotions, and then I reflect back and I'm like, okay, and then I'll apologize to whoever's around me, usually my husband or my daughter. I'm like, okay, I'm sorry, mommy, like was out of, like just too emotional. And then at least reflect, right? And a lot of people don't take the time after when they do something wrong, they don't apologize or like reflect on like, okay, yes, I noticed that's not okay, but then noticing, okay, I did a mistake. It's okay. We all still live on, but like at least acknowledge that, that you made a mistake and then apologize. I think that was one of the biggest things that has helped me in my healing journey of like healing my emotional things or baggage. Right.
Yeah. Like
Yeah.
I learned this really cool trick. It's called the welcoming. And this was from Rhonda Byrne. And she talks about how you think of those emotions those negative emotions, and you don't have to like literally think of the exact ones, but you think of them and then you breathe in and then you breathe out and then you breathe in and then you like what I say is I see you, I feel you, and then I let it stay there for a little bit and I can feel it within myself and it might be like a really hard pain like near your heart or wherever for you and just let it be there for like 30 seconds and then say I let you go. And so you let it go. So then the more times that you do this, the less those negative feelings come back or come back as strong. And this is what like Rhonda Byrne did when she was in really bad depression. And she used it for other methods and things. And I've used that because I've had a short temper at times and I don't want to do that with my son. And so like I've gotten way better with it, like where I don't snap at him anymore. And I'm so thankful for that because I always would like it would hurt me afterwards because I did, like reaction. And now I've got better at just responding.
Love that tip. Oh, that's a really good one. And I love Rhonda Byrne. She's like, I love her calm voice. I love The Secret. I love her whole concept and everything. So I'm so glad you brought that up. I'm gonna have to really try that. So I already breathe, but then like adding in the piece of like letting it be and then breathing it out and letting it go. I love
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, because you kind of have to think of the emotions as people. Like they just want to be seen, they just want to be heard. And so, like, when you bring them in, you're welcoming them in, you're letting them hang out, and then you're like, okay, you've been here, now it's time to go. And then you just let it out. Because, like, what we resist persists. So, like, whatever we're like, hey, I don't want you, then they come on full force towards you. So it's like, oh, anger, go away. I don't want you here. Then it gets even bigger and badder, and then you have more of an issue to deal with.
Yeah, I noticed that. That makes so much sense. I see that within me. Like, dude, when you try to brush things away and then it'll just come back way, way stronger. So that makes total sense. I love that tip. Thank you so much, Danny, for today and bringing your story, your knowledge, your amazing presence and energy today. Man, this episode is so good. Thank you for being here. So, last but not least, where can everybody find you, more about you? I know I'll put the show notes or I'll put your links in the show notes below. But if you want to let other people know.
Yeah. So you can find me on misfitwanders.com. You can find me on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, on the school platform for the community, Storyteller's Path. And yeah, you can find me Danielle Rosenblad James or Misfit Wanders.
Yay, awesome. Thank you so much. Oh, and everybody should go get her book. It's incredible. So, yes, and join her school community. I'm part of it. So if you want to be a part of both of us, come join us there. All right. Thank you, everyone. Bye.